Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome to Fantasia. For today, we're going to be jumping into another session of Epic 7. Now today, got the Epic 7 World Championship Global Server Qualifiers for you guys, and this has some huge names associated with it. Even right here we see Lunail versus Light over here as our first match. Now this little compilation here is really just to highlight some of what I thought were the most interesting or the most eventful rounds in each of the matches. And so starting out here, we see some pretty standard picks and bans coming out. This is Light's first game. He's up by 1, and Lunail is on the back end over here. These matches are all played out to a best of 3 format, so Light is at match point here, whereas Lunail needs to come back with a pretty strong offense this time around. But we see here that the person going on the offensive here seems to be Light, going with the ambitious Tywin and the Flitica as his first 2 picks into Lunail's Arwell. Now Flitica here is actually a pretty decent follow-up option to the A Tywin. Not only does she provide an S2 strip that strips 2 buffs, can't be countered, which is very powerful. But she can also kind of lock down the opponent from picking cleansers, like Hand Guy, for example. If they do pick a cleanser, they're going to need to pick a really high resist cleanser that Flitica would either need to soul burn to reset or gamble with an S3, right? We don't know the stats on Light's units, but assuming that Flitica is pretty fast, her effectiveness is probably hovering around 150, maybe 170 on the higher end. So we see here as the counter picks, we see the Destina and the Spectre Tenebria coming out. Spectre's pretty decent into things like Flitica and A Tywin because they don't really deal that much damage, and their AoEs are pretty sparse and few in between. So Flitica, can't really do that much unless it's a DPS Flitica, in which case Destina has the advantage here because of her high resist. But we see, because of that Spectre Tenebria, Light is going for really aggressive AoE units. We have Sylvan Sage Vivian, typically a very strong unit into Spectre Tenebria because of her focus stacks and her passive that allows her to mitigate a lot of the incoming damage that comes in. And we also see Briarwitch Iseria getting picked out. So Briarwitch offers really good AoE, really good debuffs and coverage. We got unbuffables, right? We got the attack down. But mainly here, Briarwitch prevents Destina from reviving. So if Light can play aggressively enough and nuke down units like that Spectre Tenebria early, we could potentially see him have the upper hand, as Destina will be struggling with all the debuffs put on by the Briarwitch and the A Tywin to try to cleanse things off. A Tywin does have the ability to ignore resistance if he does get his enrage buff when he cleanses a debuff from his teammates. But we see here the last picks, Fairytale Tenebria and Closer Charles. I think they're probably going to end up being the bans. I don't see a world in which Closer Charles is allowed through here, because if Fairytale Tenebria is banned, there's nothing to contest the Closer Charles' opening turn, and his S3 can't be countered, right? So Bellion can't really do all too much. So there we go. Both the last pick units going to get banned out here, and we're going to see the first 4 matchups. Let's see how it plays out. Alright, so jumping into the match here, we see Flitica take the opening turn. I mean, no one on the left side there is built incredibly fast. Pretty standard stuff. Flitica's gonna S2, look at that, stripping all of the remnants of any buffs here, even getting rid of the escort buff on that Arwell. Gonna try to reset the Arwell so that she cannot go for a stun and put up barriers on subsequent turns. A Tywin's just gonna go ahead and rip his S3. Gonna see if we can land some defense breaks here. And we do! 2 pretty decent defense breaks. I mean, Spectre Tenebria is probably going to die even without a defense break because there's no more escort buff. But the main thing here is that Bellion did not get hit by that defense break. And look at that. Briarwitch not going to be dealing as much damage to her, which could actually be pretty crucial here. So we see Sylvan Sage Vivian going in for the finishing touch on the cleave. I mean, Spectre Tenebria already went down. And Bellion! Ooh, I think if A Tywin was able to land that defense break at the very start, then Briarwitch's damage on her could have been pretty substantial, and she might have been able to go down here. But because that defense break did not land from the A Tywin, I think that might be pretty tough here. Now, looking on Light's side, everyone is very, very healthy, maybe except the Flitica. It's going to get chipped down a little bit here. But Bellion's now in a little bit of a tough spot. If she goes for an S3, then the A Tywin can actually go ahead and cleanse the debuffs. He gets his enraged state, and then he can ignore resistance. Oh, there we go. So we see here the provokes coming out, Flitica getting taken out, Briarwitch getting knocked really low, but her immortality hasn't been procced yet, which is pretty nice. A Tywin gonna hit the Bellion. Oh, the Bellion actually stripped the immortality from the Briarwitch. She's gonna go down. That is not good. Now, on the bright side here, Destina has already used her S3, so there is no threat of a revive buff coming in. But now you're down a DPS unit. Bellion's gonna soul burn and then go ahead and lay the debuffs in onto that Sylvan Sage Vivian. She has the blind. A Tywin did cleanse the speed down, but that is not gonna be enough here. Ooh, very unfortunate, but I loved to see Light and his really aggressive pick with A Tywin as a defense breaker, not normally seen here, but really good attempt in pivoting from a more kind of control-y team to something that's really aggressive with a lot of damage output. Alright, next up in the second match, we got Jinte versus Magic Chi. This was also a really interesting match to watch here. Jinte making it all the way to the very end in the last Epic 7 World Championship. So he's a really major player here and a fan favorite to take this entire tournament. But let's see how they do in this match. We got Zio and Bellion pre-ban, so that means Jinte might play a bit more aggressively. He is actually known to be a really fast player and has a lot of aggressive units built really fast. But Magic Chi here banning out the Sea Lilies and the Lua, limiting a lot of opening plays, and then going for that Spectre Tenebria first pick. Now, I believe Jinte is actually really comfortable with Spectre Tenebria as a unit and likes picking her. But we see the A Ravi coming out instead with that Spectre Tenebria getting stolen here in draft. All these players have played against each other so many times in ladder. Most of these guys are all just sitting up there in legend, and they fight each other pretty much every single day that they play. So they know each other's drafts, they know each other pretty well, and you're going to see a lot of target picks here, specifically targeted towards their opponent. Now, obviously, you start off your draft anyway in a really generic format here. A Ravi hand guy, very standard stuff. And we see the Arwell with Sharoon with the Spectre Tenebria, also just really strong into the hand guy and A Ravi. Sharoon, be able to lock them down, and Spectre Tenebria, be able to out damage the A Ravi's mitigation and A Ravi's damage output, actually. So Sharoon and Spectre are both pretty common units. Personally, I like to pick something like LR Crow in favor of in place of the Arwell, but I can understand the Arwell here because Arwell's pretty good at controlling things like A Ravi. And if hand guy pops his S3 early, you can use Sharoon to strip the immunity and everything. You can use Arwell to go ahead and stun. Spectre Tenebria can also stun. There's a lot of control on the right side for Magic Chi. But Jinte saying, hey, wait a minute, I see what you're doing, and I'm going to have some control on my side as well. Two can play at that game. So Pirate Captain Flan coming out here. There's no way he's picking Silverblade Armintha. Solitaria could actually be pretty good here as well. Double debuffers, but no, opts to go for the Angel of Light Angelica. Aola here is really tough to fight against, and without any cleansers on Magic Chi's part, that's the one downside of Sharoon. It's why I like to personally run things like Wondrous Potion Vial, because if she does have some pretty decent turn cycling, you can actually get a couple of rogue debuffs off of your team, which is pretty useful. But I know a lot of counter Sharoons are on things like Celestine, and some of the speed Sharoons might be on something like what is it? Guardian Ice Crystals, right? Amelia's artifact. So we're going to see what happens here. Ed getting picked out, pretty good into the Aola and the Pirate Captain Flan. Not great into Apocalypse Ravi, though. That is the main thing to keep in mind. However, if this is an injury Ed, things could be different. Most standard players like to have an injury Ed built for these types of situations, right? Where you have to face down like an Apocalypse Ravi or a Bellion or some other HP scaling unit. Ed can definitely get the job done. But we see a last pick of Shu that's probably going to get banned out, because Shu's actually pretty decent into the entire team on Magic Chi's side. Fire Lily's getting picked out too. I think that's a really strong last pick. probably going to get banned out here because the cleansing is going to be very, very strong. Getting rid of the bombs, getting rid of Aeola's silences and debuffs, especially because she can cleanse herself when Aeola or Handguy uses a non-attack skill, right? So there we go. Fire Lily is getting banned out. Wish we could see her in there. But that does mean that Ed gets through, so Jinte needs to be careful when applying debuffs. APOC Ravi can definitely injury him down and probably snipe him down once he gets low enough with an S3. We'll see how it plays out here very, very shortly. I don't know, I feel like Magic Chi might have a bit of an advantage here because there's not a ton of reach for that Spectre Tenebria. She's going to be sitting pretty comfortably in the back. So let's see what Jinte does in his opening turn. Handguy actually faster than Sharoon. That looks like to be a speed Sharoon, so not going to be on counter. And if she is, she's probably going to be very squishy, losing some stats to compensate for that speed there. So I think it's a speed Sharoon. We're going to see the Handguy just pop his S3, soul burning it. Now this is actually very, very smart. Because watch, Sharoon's S3, how it works is she doesn't strip buffs, she decreases the duration of buffs by 2 turns. ML Cowrick's Soulburn increases the duration of buffs by a turn. So you see here, Sharoon decreased everything by 2 turns, but they still have that attack buff and the immunity buff. And so Aeola's gonna just rip that S3 now. And that is not looking too great for Magic Chi's side. Already starting to get those debuffs piled up, but hang on, that Spectre Tenebria having that immunity not get stripped, 15%ing that strip here can actually be very important because Sharoon gives a barrier and a random buff to the highest attack unit on your team. And Magic Chi's unit here is gonna be that Spectre. Alright. Ooh, Ed actually taking a lot of damage there from that A-Ravi, but notice what happened. Ed, when he countered there, put a 2-turn provoke on this Apocalypse Ravi and a 2-turn provoke on this Aeola with a 2-turn blind on the MO Cowrick. This is huge because there's no cleansing left on Jinte's side. Spectre Tenebria opting to hold that soul burn here. Just gonna S3 and stun that Para Captain Flan. A very smart move. He's able to apply a lot of debuffs now, a lot of control, right? And because the Handguy no longer has his immunity, Sharoon can actually just lock him down as well for subsequent turns here. Now Handguy could still use his S2. Gonna go ahead and put up a barrier on everyone, which can help mitigate some of the damage that might be coming in. So there we go. Opting to go for the R-Wall, probably the safest pick there. I mean, could go for the Sharoon. But, you know, if it is counter, she would be able to potentially lock down this Cowrick. But again, I'm pretty sure this is a speed build. We see the S1 coming in on the APOC Ravi, just kind of decreasing the cooldowns, not really too important because she is provoked anyway. Ed gonna be countering yet again. 2-turn silence on the Aeola, actually pretty big here. And reapplying the blind on that ML Cowrick. So, R-Wall is still silenced as of this point, so she can't go for her S3, but that's okay. She can always hold it and use it on subsequent turn, lock down that A-Ravi, prevent her from using that S3, while Sharoon goes ahead and controls the rest of the team. So you see here that there's a kind of soft control team on Magic Chi's side right now, and Jinte's team is struggling a little bit. We see the injury piling up on that Ed, I mean Ed's injury also piling up on that A-Ravi. Oh wait, but that was a huge dual attack from the Pirate Captain Flan, actually locking down this Arwell, stunning her with that dual attack, detonating that bomb that was on her there. Pretty big. So now we see the Spectre Tenebria coming in, taking the turn. She got the speed buff previously from the Sharoon, which is very, very nice because there is not a whole lot of momentum on Magic Chi's side, aside from the Ed being able to push himself up, right? And Sharoon occasionally pushes herself up, but they're all very selfish. But Sharoon here with that speed buff on that Spectre Tenebria allows her turn cycle quite fast, and she might be taking another turn very, very soon. Ed's going to go ahead and Soulburn here. He is in Sigurd's Scythe range. He's going to go into the A-Ravi, and we're going to see some healing come in. A bit of damage and a lot of injury getting stacked up there on that Ravi. I think Ed is still in a pretty vulnerable position though. We could potentially see an A-Ravi slam an S3, although they might want to save the A-Ravi S3 for a revive. We do have souls, so a Ravi could just soul burn into Ed. If Ed goes down, this Pirate Captain Flan has so much more free reign onto the opponent here. We see just that happening. Soul burn into the Ed. He goes down, and now Aola gets to take another turn, trying to cycle out of this silence right here. She doesn't have her skills up regardless, but she is going to push back that ROL and silence her too. Alright, so we see the Mediator take his turn. He does have all of his skills up, so he could potentially go for an S3, but if he does, Sharoon could potentially just strip all of that too, because she has her S3 up. Handguy could just opt to go for... Ooh, never mind, he's gonna go for a Soul Burn S3 here, just like what he did in the opening of the match. I was gonna say that he could potentially go for an S2, but that does risk him getting locked down by that Sharoon and never being able to cleanse afterwards. But here we go. Spectre Tenebria actually gets that crit damage buff from that Sharoon, and this might hurt quite a bit. I think Pirate Captain Flan's gonna be going down here. Oh, and the perfect hit onto that Apocalypse Ravi there. Wow, that 1 in 3 chance, so definitely gonna be taking that free kill, and I think that's about it. Spectre Tenebria pretty much sat there the entire match, untouched. I mean, there was no reach for her, right? So definitely well drafted and well played. Sharoon putting in a lot of work there with those supportive buffs passively occurring with her S2. Alright, let's hop into our third match of this video here. We have Winter Wish on the left side versus Makanabara on the right side. And this is gonna be pretty interesting. Winter Wish is up 1 round currently. This is round number 2 in their match here. And we saw Spectre Tenebria get first picked yet again. Makanabara taking that very confidently. I think in this E7 World Championship, throughout the servers, Spectre Tenebria has been a very popular first pick unit, or at least a very early pick unit. So let's see how that plays out. Do keep in mind that a lot of openers are banned here. See Lilius, Lua, and Zio. We also have some mitigation in the form of Arwol banned out, and Bellion as well. So with the Bellion banned, Spectre becomes much safer to play. So LRK coming out and Aola on Winter Wish's side. Aola is typically a very strong counter into Last Rider Crow, so taking that with the Last Rider Crow actually helps bolster Winter's team. LRK has the AoE to hit that Spectre Tenebria pretty hard, and the Aola being able to strip buffs and kind of control her is pretty good too. We see Ron and a Ravi get picked out on Makanabara's side, and that's actually a little interesting because Ron is pretty bad into an Aola. Typically you don't want to use your S3 because she can just cleanse and put up a skill null. Now typically if you do use Ron though, you follow up with something like a Politis. So Ron can S2 and then you S3. Your S3 will proc the Aola to cleanse and put up the skill null, in which case your DPS Politis will come in, use your S2, get rid of the skill nulls, cut with her S2, right, and then use your S3 to deal some more damage. Apoc Ravi there, going to be picked out. I don't know if that's the play here because Spectre Tenebria is already there, and typically Spectre with a Ravi together is pretty vulnerable to certain units like Sylvan Sage Vivian, for example. But we see here the LQC and DJB getting picked out on the left side. DJB, very good cleanser. You guys know how I feel about him. Super powerful unit that can definitely cut and cleanse after this round goes and push up the entire team. And if LQC takes a turn here, I think it's going to be pretty bad. But we do see a Fairy Tail Tenebria and a Flong get picked out. That's Fairy Tail Tenebria is actually pretty good into Aola because the redirected provoke won't be cleansed off if you land all your debuffs. But this could actually be a DPS Fairy Tail Tenebria. It would be a very interesting tech if it were. Flan here can buff the Spectre, but I'm not sure what direction they're going to be going in. Alright, Aiden was the last pick, going to get banned out there. Aiden's actually pretty strong. I mean, both Aiden and LQC could potentially nuke that A Ravi, right? Depending on the artifact that's on that Aiden there. And we're going to see the Spectre get banned out, so 20 less souls here. Fairy Tail Tenebria is still holding souls though, so Flong can soul burn. However, look at the left side. Everyone has immunity. Ron opting to not go for any skills at all. Just in case, right? If he went for an S2, that DJB could be on Soul Constellation, and he could cut because of that non-attack skill. If he went for an S3, DJB could potentially cut if there's a debuff and he has a Turnus, and that Aola is going to cleanse and put that skill null on. Flan opting not to go for any skill skills too because of DJB. So we see the Fairy Tail Tenebra letting rip her S3. Can she land a debuff on that DJB? She can, but it's not going to be enough. She only lands one debuff on every unit, which means Aeola's going to be able to cleanse everything here and then rip an S3. So Makanabara not looking great in this situation right now. DJB opting to go for an S1 onto the APOC Ravi, allowing him to take another turn before any of Winter's units follow up here. And I mean, good play because there's no damage coming in because of the skill nulls, right? LRK gonna rip that S3, give immunity to everybody, and gonna be dealing a lot of damage because watch, look at all those squishy units under half health now. Everybody getting absolutely demolished. Now, Ron can't even go for an S2 or anything here because, again, everyone is unbuffable now. LQC with a ton of Hellcutter stacks. Let's see what she could do. Soul Burning the S3, trying to guarantee this kill on the A Ravi. Oh, 5,000 damage on the initial hit. 25k. Everyone's down. LQC cleave against a, well, what looked to be a pretty aggressive aggro/cleave team on the right side, but Makanabara stood no chance against that. LQC's a bonk. You gotta love to see it. Alright, Lunail on the left side, going up against what's gotta be the best name in this entire tournament, Poopist. Right? We got the serial pooper over here on the right side, and you know what? Just with that name alone, I'm going to be rooting for him in this match. We see some pretty standard stuff coming out. See Lilius as a first pick on Poopist's side, and we got Lunail on the left, going for a hand guy and a Ravi. Both of them are pretty decent combo into C. Lilius. It allows your team to be pretty flexible in a standard draft. And Poopist is going to be rounding out his draft with some mitigation here, going for the Arwell, Sharoon, pretty standard stuff. We actually saw this quite often, right? Arwell, Sharoon into A Ravi and Hangai. They're pretty good counter picks. We see the Solitaria coming out though. That's actually pretty smart. Solitaria providing a lot of debuffs onto Poopist's team, who is going to struggle because, again, Sharoon does not have any cleansing in her kit. In fact, she doesn't even have any healing either, and relies entirely on artifacts for those effects. Lionheart Sarmia, typically a very strong unit into Solitaria because she can self-cleanse, and now she can CR push, which means it's even more unlikely that she's going to get locked down by Solitaria, potentially lapping her. So Lionheart being snatched away here, and it's not the worst thing in this case because the Sharoon could be on counter, which could proc this Lionheart Sarmia, and the C. Lilius on subsequent turns after her opening turn can proc the Lionheart Sarmia with the guaranteed dual attacks. So what's going to happen here, Poopist in kind of a tough position, but actually opting to go for last piece Corinne. You love to see it, hovering over the Kisei, and we see the Kisei get snatched up too. So here is the issue, right? Lionheart Sarmia and APOC Ravi, they're both slower DPS units. I don't think that they can actually hit last piece Corinne or Kisei because they could be permanently stealth. Right? Last piece Corinne and Kisei are built pretty fast, really fast DPSs that can just be dealing absurd amounts of damage while staying stealth, and with Sharoon and C. Lilius and Arwell providing that control, right? They have provokes and stuns and resets. I think it's going to be pretty powerful. Zio's the last pick here. I think Zio's going to get banned out to guarantee Poopist his first turn. Because again, there's 3 fast units there, right? Kisei, last piece Corinne, and this C. Lilius. Kisei is going to get banned out. I think Lunail is fearing that Kisei, because she could potentially reset the hand guy right off the bat as well, right? So let's see what happens. Going to this match here, I think Poopist should be opening. Yep, there we go. C. Lilius typically way faster than most Solitarias that are out there. And so we see him popping his S3, getting that vigor up for the team. Last piece Corinne going to be following up very, very shortly. Hand guy, unfortunately, does not get his immunity stripped, so C. Lilius is going to be able to push somebody else back. Going to go for that A. Ravi, actually, provoking her. She's going to be a bit of a threat later on. Last piece Corinne, going to pop her S3. I just absolutely love that animation. Alright, and she gets that self-attack buff. She's probably going to go for the Solitaria, see if she can kill. Oh! Whoa, the Solitaria living with a sliver of health. That is absolutely insane. ML Coward, that's a 29, almost 30k HP ML Coward. That is a 20k HP Solitaria. What in the world is going on? So she's gonna go for an S1, trying to land those debuffs onto that last piece. Corinne actually strips the barrier from her and inflicts speed down. Unfortunately not able to knock her out of stealth or anything of that sort. So Sharoon is going to go ahead and pop her S3. She should be able to lap this hand guy and potentially lock him down. But we'll see how that plays out here. Arwell could actually go for an S3 if she wants to put up a barrier, but last piece Corinne already got one from Sharoon, so she's just going to go ahead and tap that Solitaria, finish her off. Venom probably could have done it as well, but just to be safe, to make sure that this hand guy doesn't accidentally miraculously cut or anything, finishing her off was definitely the smarter play. Right, but Sharoon gets to go now. Handguy has a speed down, so Sharoon was able to lap him, and resetting that A Ravi is pretty smart here, because what it does is it makes it so that she can't S3 and revive, right? Unfortunately, C. Lilius forced the dual attack here, and that Lionheart Surmia now has her S3. This is going to be really, really bad, because that last piece, Corinne, while she does have that barrier, and she is in stealth, stealth reduces the AoE damage taken by 50%. She is so squishy. She is at 9,000 total health here. Perhaps maybe around 11,000 health if you factor in the Sharoon's barrier. So Lionheart Surmia could probably just finish the game off right here. So an S3 coming out, and let's see that damage. Oh, okay. Oh, whoa, hang on just a second. Arwell countering, get rid of that defense buff, minimizing the damage from this S1, and look at that last piece, Corinne, surviving with just a sliver of health. Now, we have our Arwell, who held on to that S3 from the last turn, and she could actually just go for the stun here on that APOC Ravi, make sure that she loses this next turn, but also providing a nice barrier to that last piece, Corinne, so that this hand guy can't finish her off. Let's see what happens with the C. Lilius though. Lionheart Surmia definitely going to be able to push up here, and she does have a speed buff. So this is going to be a little dangerous. Oh, that was the best case scenario for this last piece, Corinne, going in for that dual attack. Earlier we saw, you know, the Sharoon and the Arwells doing some shenanigans with the dual attacks, but here, last piece, Corinne, the one unit that you really, really want to go, and we see that she took it. Sharoon able to reset that Emil Calric. He's only able to S1 here. A Ravi was stunned, so she loses the turn. Let's see if this last piece, Corinne, is able to finish anyone off. She has to go for that soul burn. Lionheart Surmia, oh, just barely taking her out. Just under 8,000 damage right there. And last piece, Corinne now, I mean, crit damage buff on her. She was able to do it, just squeeze it out by the skin of their teeth. Man, okay, so Emil Calric is going to be able to take the turn here. He doesn't have his S2 up, but he does have an S3, so he's going to go ahead and put up that immunity and that attack buff. But Sharoon, she has that S3 ready as well, as to potentially strip everything. Let's see what the Arwell's going to do. Going to go for the hand guy there. He resists the little dual attack from the Sharoon, but it doesn't really matter all too much. Sharoon's going to go ahead and push herself up here, and Corinne is going to be taking the turn. I believe she can go for another S3. Yeah, there we go. So she is going to give up that crit damage buff in exchange for an attack buff, and how much damage she could be able to do on this S2. Let's go ahead and take a look here. It should not be able to kill a Ravi, I feel. A Ravi is very tanky, but we are in Frenzy, and oh my god, we got 25k damage coming out, and that was the fastest concede that we've seen. Wow, Poopist gonna be taking that match right there. Okay. Moving on, we got another round here. This is the final round, right? Round 3 of the best of 3 between Lunail and Poopist. This one is also gonna be quite interesting, so let's see how it plays out. We see that Lunail is going to start off with the C. Lilius. Poopist just going to go ahead and pick out that Arwell there and take the hand guy as well. Hand guy, very good cleanser into the C. Lilius, so you can definitely understand why a lot of standard players are picking him up. He has a lot of turn cycling, a lot of protection with his barrier. He has a cleanse with an immunity buff to prevent future debuffs, as well as an attack buff to help out with some offensive potential. We have Aola on the left side getting picked up, actually decent into hand guy, because the hand guy doesn't want to cleanse after the C. Lilius if the Aola hasn't gone, and most people are building some slower Aolas, around 200 speed, that goes after most cleansers, and then threatens them, right? So you essentially want to hold on to your hand guy skills, and it becomes a war of attrition, where no one wants to pop their S3. A Ravi gonna get snatched up though on Lunail's side, and we see Poopist hovering over that Solitaria. Thinking about those debuffs could potentially come in handy against something like an A Ravi, especially when there's no cleansers on Lunail's side, and Poopist is the one who has that hand guy. So here we go. The Solitaria gets locked in, and we see this pattern happening over and over again, picking up the Lionheart Sirmia that counters this Solitaria, and just snatching her up as well. Pretty good into that Sea Lilius, so she's not dead weight here. Alright, now we see that oh, wait a minute. We got that Dark Corvus getting picked up in the draft. I'm sorry, Poopist. You might have the best name in this tournament, but Dark Corvus here on the left side, I must see, and I must root for. So, Dark Corvus getting picked up really strong into Poopist's team right now, because Lionheart Sirmia, while she has some burst damage, unless it's procced consistently, she's not going to be able to finish off this Dark Corvus, and the Solitaria with an AoE that she can't help but using on her extra attack is just feeding him, right? ML Cowrick gonna get picked up as, or sorry, ML Kawazu gonna get picked up as well, and he's also gonna be pretty good into Solitaria. He doesn't care about getting debuffed at the start, as long as he can live long enough, and most Kawazus are built pretty bulky. Solitaria's AoE or potentially Lionheart's S3 could awaken him and cleanse him, push him up, give him the vigor buff, and he can delete somebody. Now, if he doesn't want to wait, Sea Lilius is on the team, so it can grant Kawazu a vigor buff immediately, and he can delete something like this Lionheart Sirmia right out the gate. So it is very dangerous for Poopist right now, who ended up his draft with a Shu. I think the Shu's probably going to get banned out here. She's actually pretty good into the entire team. Oh, no, she's not. All right. Hand Guy going to get banned out. So a lot of debuffs going to be coming in on Lunail's side. And we see the ML Kawazu get banned out here. Pretty good choice. You don't really want your damage dealers to get nuked right off the bat. But Shu actually has a chance here. If she procs a couple good Fooshes, she could potentially do some good damage. However, the issue still stands that Dark Corvus usually built over 30k health, very bulky, and with a vigor buff from Sea Lilius, I mean, he is going to be staying alive for quite a while and has a lot of solo potential. So going into this, we see the Solitaria, of course, slower than the Sea Lilius. Most Sea Liliuses here are 300 plus speed, so we see her ripping that S3, getting that vigor buff up, and putting the attack down on the Shu and the Lionheart, both the damage dealers. Okay, ooh, this Solitaria might actually be a resist Solitaria, and the Sea Lilius might just be lacking in her effectiveness. I think it's a combination of the two, though. Solitaria going to be coming in, taking the turn. S3 coming out onto this A Ravi, going to be locking her down. Aola, without hesitation, ripping her S3 into Poopist, as we see the unbuffables and the silences going and making their rounds here. Fortunately, Arwell does not get silenced. However, everyone has the unbuffable. You're not really going to get any value from using your S3 to get a barrier. Everyone going and getting these dual attacks, though. Look at that. Aola not looking too healthy here. Getting chipped down. I mean, the Lionheart and the Shu, they kind of attack together there, and massive amounts of damage coming out, right? I think if you want a dual attack, oh, wait a minute, that was a pretty good dual attack there as well. Although, it does proc the Lionheart Sirmia, it would have procced anyway with the Sea Lilius' upcoming turn. So we see another dual attack coming in and pushing back that Shu, silencing her. The A Ravi dual attack onto that Shu was actually pretty good, dealt a lot of damage, but that Shu is still the most dangerous unit on Poopist's side, so we're going to definitely want that Dark Corvus S3 to go into her. Alright, Aola going to be coming in for her next turn. See if she can push back that Lionheart, silence her, but no. That resist coming out there. Don't know if it's 15% or not. It very likely is, because most Aolas are built with a ton of effectiveness nowadays. So even with that resist buff, this Lionheart's probably sitting around 100 resistance, and most Aolas are built with at least 180 to 200 effectiveness. Arwell going to be coming in with a stun onto that Apocalypse Ravi. She's just never going to see a turn, is she? Oh, and that disgusting dual attack from that Shu. She didn't foosh, but she brought that Lionheart Sirmia, bring her up so that now she can S3. Golden Rose going to be dealing a ton of damage. Look at that. Sea Lilius almost dead. The Aeola's gone. Apoc Ravi still stunned. He can Soul Burn as well. with this 10 souls that he currently has here if he wants to finish off that C. Lilius. Although C. Lilius is fueling his Lionheart though, so he just opts to go for that A. Ravi and allows C. Lilius to take another turn here. She can't help but dual attack, so A. Ravi is getting brought along, which is actually a pretty good unit to bring along for these dual attacks into Shu. She does counter, no Foosh, but that CR push does make it so that she gets pushed up here and is able to cut in front of that Solitaria. Let's see what she opts to do. I think she'll probably go for an S2, try to Foosh. Yep, there we go, into the APOC Ravi, not able to finish her off there. That injury definitely saving that APOC Ravi for sure, because Shu is an HP scaling unit. Oh, but that's another nasty dual attack. How many dual attacks have we had from Poopist here? There's like 4 dual attacks coming out in total. Lunail had, I think, like 1 significant one, right? Bringing the A Ravi with that Dark Corvus or something there. But, oh, speaking of, Lionheart and that C. Lily is going to be taken, or sorry, the A. Ravi and the C. Lily is going to be taken out by that Lionheart Surmia. And now it's Dark Corvus' turn. She has to hit him. And now he has his S3. He has to go ahead and Soul Burn for more damage, for more healing, and go into the Shu. Now this Shu is the unit that could potentially solo his Dark Corvus, right? If she gets a couple Foosh procs, ignoring defense, and just slapping him across the face with her paw, then he could just be banished to Shadow Realm immediately. But right now we see this Solitaria could be taking the turn. She's going to hit him twice, and if there's an unlucky crit here or there, I mean, it's not going to be too good. I take that back. Solitaria does have her S3, and it doesn't crit, but it lands a crucial blind debuff. Ooh, that's not going to be too great here. Fortunately, this Dark Corvus is on Durandal. He's able to push himself up. And if the Arvo crits, so this Dark Corvus is able to have an S3. He opts to not go for it and provoke this Lionheart Surmia. I don't know if I agree with that here, though. I think he probably should have just went for it. I think what he was trying to do was cycle out of that blind debuff, but it gets reapplied here. Speed down as well. Another dual attack coming in. Oh, that dual attack was pretty significant because this Solitaria is on Fairy Tail for a Nightmare. That's why you see the extra burst of damage coming in afterwards. And he rips the S3 into the Lionheart Surmia, hits with that 50-50, and actually just barely manages to finish her off. But I really think he probably should have gone for that S3 earlier. And just taken the risk, right? You're playing Dark Corvus as a 1v3 solo. You just have to keep going for it to keep yourself healthy. Solitaria going to go in. We see the S1 into an S2. Dark Corvus should be able to survive here, but he does not have enough charge, which is very unfortunate. He would have had, I think, another charge ready here if he had ripped his S3 as soon as he got it before. But here we go. Solitaria going for the Soul Burn, taking the extra turn. Even though Dark Corvus on Durandal, he's going to get pushed back here, I believe. Yeah, there we go. He can't be stunned because of his passive, but that's not going to stop this damage coming in from the Solitaria here. And I think the Fairy Tail for a Nightmare might be able to finish him off. Oh no, he lives, but the Arwell being able to cut him and take the turn. Dark Corvus. Oh, Dark Corvus, he wasn't able to do it. But at the very least, we got to see Poopist move on to the next round. Alright, with that being said though, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it and you want to see more of these Epic 7 World Championship coverage videos, be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button. And until next time, take care.